Stand by. Ready.
This is ActSta's Reviews, from anime to figures and beyond. Hey, this is ActSta and welcome to another episode of ActSta's Figure Reviews. Now here's something I've been waiting ages for. ActSta, not to be confused with ActSta, Takamachi Nanoha. For those unfamiliar with the line, ActSta is short for Act Statue or Action Statue. The line, if I'm not mistaken, is a collaboration between the garage kit maker Liquid Stone and Good Smile Company. It is, as the name states, what would happen if a 1/8 scale completed PVC figure were given joints and the ability to be posed. So essentially, with this figure, you get the details, size and quality of a completed PVC figure coupled with the articulation and accessories of a Figma figure. Sounds like a match made in heaven to me, but we can't be entirely certain of that until we take a proper look at the figure. Now, this Nanoha figure, based on her design from the new movie, is the third release in the ActSta line. There were two other figures released before her, Subaru and Tina from the Nanoha Strikers series, but I didn't get them as I didn't really care enough for the characters to pay the asking price, so this particular Nanoha figure is my very first ActSta. I have to say though, personally, the box design for some reason seems just somewhat lacking. I don't know, but something about it just seems bland and unattractive. The box design is similar to the previous two ActSta's boxes, but unlike those, there is only monochrome blue used throughout the entirety of the packaging. Some white or even pink would have really made a difference. Perhaps a different font? I don't know. The front and sides are decent enough. We have a huge window that proudly shows off its contents. ActSta logo, GSC logo, Nanoha Takamachi. The sides, we have a collage of pictures featuring Nanoha in various poses. But if we take a look at the back, I don't know if it's just me, but this just seems lazy. They just took the production pictures and slapped it on the back. It looks cobbled together with Photoshop at best. Not to mention, 4 out of the 5 pictures have already been used on the sides. Well, at least the figure looks great, so they do have that going for it. In the grand scheme of things, it's not really the packaging that matters, but the contents. So let's open this up and take a look at said contents. So here is ActSta Nanoha herself, and boy is she gorgeous. The first thing that hits you when you get her out of the box is the size. The figure is at 1/8 scale, bringing in her Figma counterpart, which is roughly 1/12 scale. The size difference is pretty evident, with ActSta's Nanoha being a whole head taller, or 2 Figma heads taller. And looking at the two, I just realized how much better proportioned the ActSta Nanoha is compared with Figma Nanoha. For instance, her head is bigger and her body is slightly longer. Her bangs are not as big and noticeable either. Looking more closely, it would seem that the Figma head sculpt is far more reminiscent of her design from the original series. The second thing that hits you is the intricacy of the sculpting and details. I mean, just look at her hair. Check out the individually sculpted strands. Compared with the Figma version, the difference in the level of detail is pretty evident. Other than that, paint application wise, it's nearly flawless. She just looks really amazing. All the lines are very nice and crisp, and we also have some lovely metallic red and gold sprinkled throughout the figure. I'm not really sure how well my camera is able to pick this up, but there is actual shading and gradients in her hair, in her ribbons, and in her clothes that really help to add that extra finish and polish to the figure that you just don't see on the Figma figure. Essentially, the bigger scale of the ActStas just give the designers much more room to work and to cram more detail into the figure. As expected from a product from GSC, the build quality is solid. The figure feels great in hand and is made of good, sturdy material. Unlike the Figma figure, her skirt is made entirely of soft PVC. There are 3 cuts in her skirt, one here, and one on the back. that I'll be getting more into later on. Soft PVC is also present in her shoulder pads and in her outer vest. All the joints on the figure are nice and tight except for her right leg, which for some reason actually becomes loose only at certain positions. She's still able to stand fine on her own, as you have seen previously, and since I'll be posing her with the stand most of the time, that's not really that big of an issue. But otherwise, no complaints for me. Articulation wise, we essentially have the same articulation of the Figma figure with some added articulation and some ingenious new design elements. Her head has all the basic articulation, up and down, side to side, and side to side this way as well. However, taking a closer look at the back of her head, you can actually see this little extra hair piece that slides under her head when it's tilted back. Now this not only serves to give her head added backwards articulation, it also preserves her aesthetics as well. For her arms, it can move forwards and backwards. Now if we take a closer look at the shoulder pads, we can see that its design seemingly limits the in and out movement of her arms. This is the second new design element that I love. What they did to circumvent this problem was to make the top half of her shoulder pad separate from the rest of her arm. This means that her arm actually slides over the tops of her shoulder pads to achieve the desired in and out movement. The rest of her arm is similar to the Figma, with the ability to rotate below her shoulder and to bend at her elbow. Her wrist joint, however, has been given an upgrade. Instead of having just a single hinge joint, her wrist joints are now a full joint. This means that we not only have forwards and back movement, but we can also have the ability to rotate the hands at her wrists. Her waist, however, is spectacular as it affords forwards, backwards, and side-to-side movement of her upper body. And now we come to the one innovation on the figure that really impressed me. Her skirt is posable as well. What do I mean? Remember these cuts that are present on her skirt? Well, if we take a look under her skirt, you will notice these two little arms. Now, what these are for is to hold the soft PVC in place. So let's say you want Nanoha's skirt to be bigger and more fanned out. All you have to do is to bend this centerpiece as far forwards as you want it to go, and maneuver the two arms to hold the soft PVC in place. Overall, the effect is really well done and not obtrusive in the slightest. The back of her skirt has a similar gimmick as well, though this time the extra skirt piece itself is attached to a joint. Simply pull it back to fan her skirt out even more. Last but not least, her legs. Exactly the same as her Figma counterpart in the sense that her legs can move forwards and backwards, in and out, and rotate side to side. Her knees also bend as well. Her foot does move forwards and backwards, side to side, and swivel side to side as well. But as you can see, even the front of her foot is given an added point of articulation, though to be honest, it's not really that significant. So even in the articulation department, the ActSta Nanoha figure is proving to be a significant upgrade of the Figma figure. If you still aren't convinced, let's take a look at the accessories that she comes with. First up, she comes with a whole host of exchangeable hands that range from fists to ones that will allow you to hold her intelligent device, to split open, so on and so forth. Next, we have a pair of flyer fins that peg onto the bottom of her feet. They look great and they do achieve the desired effect. Just like Figma's, we are treated with a pair of exchangeable faces. We have one that has her in a battle enraged expression, and we have another one that has her smiling rather cheerfully. Following that, we have Yuno, Nanoha's friend, familiar, and a magical partner. With the Figma version, he was just one solid piece of plastic. Not so for the ActSta. Yuno, despite his small size, gets 7 points of articulation. His head swivels side to side, all his feet move. He does have a waist joint that swivels from side to side, and his tail moves all the way around as well. This means that you can get him into a number of poses, such as standing on two legs or walking on all four. Moving on to Nanoha's signature intelligent device, Raising Heart. Unfortunately, there's really nothing much for me to say here, as it's pretty identical to the Figma one, and if you have seen the new incarnation of Raising Heart, there isn't really much a difference in terms of the design or details, save of course the difference in size. Next, we have Raising Heart in Canon mode. Again, nothing much to say, it's nicely detailed all around. In terms of features, we can extend the handle of Raising Heart by detaching the head and shaft and swapping the center piece. This is great and all, but with ActSta, you know that they are going to go one step further. We get effects parts that consists of 3 energy wings that are made of the same translucent pink plastic her flyer fins are. Now, doesn't that just look spectacular? And now, let me present you with ActSta Nanoha's base. Oh yeah! Now, one of the downsides of the Figma figures was that their bases were the standard run-of-the-mill base that really lacked any sort of uniqueness or individuality. With ActSta Nanoha, we get this amazing translucent pink base with a sculpted mid-shoulder magic circle on it. There is a hole on top that is for this 3-jointed stand to peg into. Now, for some reason, they decided to go with this bizarre curved design as opposed to the more conventional straight one, and instead of this clamp attachment, they gave you the option to swap it out for this more traditional pegged one. The final series of accessories to be included are even more effects parts, the first of which is her round shield. It's made of translucent plastic similar to the AT field that came with the Robot Damacy Evangelion 01. I just can't say how much I love shield effects, and I'm ecstatic that they included this. To attach the shield to the stand, we are provided with a couple of extension parts that connect to the base via any of these notches. The shield clips onto this transparent stand that pegs into any one of these holes on the extension part. Last but not least, we are also treated with 3 translucent plastic strips that serve to recreate the, I don't really know what you call them, magic rings that appear when she's firing Raising Hearts. I honestly do love these. I mean, just look at how intricate the printing is. To get them looking like rings, we need to peg their ends together with this plastic peg and slot them into this hole that is attached to a plastic stand. Same with the shield, to display them, you need to attach them to any one of the holes on the extension part. I only have one issue with this. I think it would have been much better if they'd found a way to attach the strips to the staff instead of the stand, because being attached to the stand, you'll require some effort lining them up, and not to mention, restricts the amount of poses you can have Nanoha in. But all in all, it makes for one hell of a display. In conclusion, ActSta Nanoha really is an action statue, meaning to say that she looks like a completed PVC figure but poses just like an action figure. Compared to a Figma counterpart, the bigger scale really gives the designers so much more room to work with. The materials are better, the design is better, the articulation is better, and the sculpt and details are more intricate and accurate, and overall, it's just a far better figure representation of the character. Not to mention, I think that many fans will appreciate the bigger scale, as she's just much easier to pose and play with. That's not even taking into account the awesome base and extras that are included with the figure. We have effects parts, a shield, energy wings, 2 separate Raging Heart staffs, a posable Uno, exchangeable faces, exchangeable hands, and a personalized stand. But of course, like everything in life, you get what you pay for. The figure is significantly more expensive than her Figma counterpart, so in my opinion, is she worth the asking price? Well, honestly, it's up to you. While ActSta Nanoha blows me away in nearly all aspects, Figma Nanoha is a pretty damn good figure as well. If you're a huge fan of the character or the series and are willing to put down the extra cash, I say pick up ActSta Nanoha. However, if you're a casual fan, the Figma version is fine as well. And now that we've seen what ActSta has to offer, I'm even more excited for the upcoming ActSta Fate figure. Those of you who have seen my Fate Figma figure review know that I was quite disappointed with it. Here's hoping that ActSta gives Fate the action figure rendition that she deserves. So, this is ActSta saying, see you guys in the next episode.